Alright, what's going on YouTube? We continue our grind with Hidden Cup for qualifiers in my effort to cast all possible qualifiers. Once again, these are going to be recorded games that were played today, but I don't know the result of these. We'll have an interesting matchup to start the day with, which is going to be between Miguel and NorthernPike. Miguel is one of the best Brazilian players out there, and NorthernPike, a player that used to be on the Suomi team in ECL, back in the days. He's a high-level Finnish player, however, he has been on and off Age of Empires for last about 2 years, so we'll see if he's gonna be able to beat Miguel over here. And we'll have a best of 5 in the round of 64s in this one as well. And here is the draft. Quickly bring in the home maps as well. Miguel opens up with Bay, and Pike picks Island as his home map. Bands will be Hideout and Cross, and finally Pike picks Slopes and Miguel picks Gold Rush. This is the first time we're going to see Gold Rush in the Hidden Cup qualifiers so far. Civilizations, it looks like both first picks were banned, or well, not banned but sniped. Aztecs and Tatars are the global bans, and Vikings, Mayans were sniped. Miguel is left with Chinese, Khmer, Franks, Mongols, Persians, and Portuguese, whereas Pike will be left with Italians, Japanese, Huns, Indians, Britons, and Lithuanians. With that in mind, I think we can actually get going with this one. I'll be using Capture H for this, and off we go. So welcome to the first game. Over here, this is going to be Arabia, and we're going to have Miguel playing as red with Chinese on the right side, and to the left is going to be NorthernPike in Britons in blue, a somewhat unconventional civilization selection for Arabia, but not completely unprecedented. Britain is a very, very strong archer civ, but I actually like the Chinese here a little bit better. Overall, I feel like the Chinese versatility is something that you're always looking for on a map like Arabia, whereas Britons are a little bit one-dimensional to my taste. Anyways, Britons can still be very, very useful, especially the early Castle Age crossbow pushes could be something to consider. And it is likely that whatever Miguel is going to do, which is probably going to be scouts and skirms, or potentially archers and skirms, he's gonna have to involve skirms into his army right from the beginning. Otherwise, he's just gonna get overrun with superior numbers of archers because the Briton ranges work faster. So let's talk about these two players, because I feel like the reason why this matchup is super, super interesting is because neither of these players are actually what they used to be on the Woobly era. On the Woobly era, Miguel was actually one of the strongest Brazilian players. I think he has actually lost a little bit of pace with Definitive Edition. He's slowly gaining back his old shape, I have to say that. So he's definitely better than he used to be like 2 or 3 months ago. But we still have to say that compared to his old Woobly self, I think he's a little bit behind. On the other side is going to be, I was actually looking at Pike the whole time while I was talking about Miguel, but on the other side, NorthernPike is actually one of the lesser known Finnish players, but for those that were around in 2018, I don't have to introduce him. But for those of you who haven't been around that time, and there is an increasing amount of people who haven't been around at that time in competitive Age of Empires, NorthernPike was the 5th member of Team Suomi in Escape Champions League, and that team featured Max, Viles, Zupi, Rubenstock, and Pike, and Pike actually played a rather active role in that team. Ever since then, he has been on and off from Age of Empires. For example, I checked out his accounts on AoE2.net, and he didn't play a single ranked game between, I think, November 31st and January the 20th, or something like that. I don't remember the exact dates, but this is the biggest problem that Pike is facing, basically. He's a very good player, probably top 50 in my opinion. However, he is just very frequently inactive. Obviously, there's other things as well going on in his life, I assume, so it is not necessarily his fault, but I think the main bottleneck that he's facing when it comes to competitive Age of Empires is that he's just having too much downtime, as we have 3 villagers only on wood. That's a surprising move from Pike with Britons, because Britons don't get any wood-related bonuses, so I wonder if this is going to be sneaky scouts play. That would be somewhat surprising from Britons, but maybe he thinks, okay, Miguel is stronger, and I'm going to have to do some tricky plays over here. Otherwise, now that he had the 4th villager on the wood line, that's not going to be the case. But yeah, I was surprised that that was 3 villagers on wood for so long for him. So we'll see if Pike is able to get back into his shape. It is worth noting that Pike was actually one of the more active players in the first days of Definitive Edition. So when DE came out, he was pretty active and he was on the top of the ladder for a long time. So I remember when Pike was top 10 on the ladder in Definitive Edition. But as I said, he has been on and off from Age Vampires, and I think that is impacting his performance. That being said, he's still a pretty good player overall. And it's going to be interesting what he can accomplish against Miguel. I think what Miguel has for him in this one is that Miguel is just much more in shape currently than Pike is. So unless Pike has spent tens, if not hundreds of hours preparing for this tournament, I would actually give the edge to Miguel. And I'm going to say something like, I am going to propose 3-1 in the favor of Miguel. Anyways, we have barracks opening from both players, a man-at-arms play from Pike, and on the other side, it looks like we are going to have something similar as well from Miguel over here. So man-at-arms versus man-at-arms. In that case, I think both civs are pretty reasonable for man-at-arms. Britain's gather from the sheep faster, so you're gonna have a nice little extra food to start the game with, which is helpful when it comes to making man-at-arms plays. Whereas Chinese obviously have a very strong economy, so you're gonna be able to get the man-at-arms out pretty easily as well. Let's take a look at the base of the players while we are at it. The gold mine is beautiful for Miguel. He's got woodlands at the back as well. Stone mines are pretty awful, but technically this is a relatively easily volable map for Miguel. Something like this and this should be fine for him, and then he can just vote to the TC like this. He will drop the archer range over here or so, and then potentially wall it off like this, and that would also secure a stone mine for you. So it's a very, very nice base for Miguel. On the other side, Pike's base is a tiny bit worse. This gold mine is a little bit more exposed, but still this is wallable enough to protect that gold mine. And the stone mines are also equally bad, to be honest. So the two players have very, very similar maps, and it looks like man-at-arms play isn't going to happen over here, because at the end of the day, both players would lose their militias before the upgrade would kick in, and you can see that neither of them are actually going for it. The scouts will be traded here, but at the end of the day, it seems like Miguel is winning the fight. I think Pike's militias might have been on stand ground, and Miguel was actually winning that fight pretty decisively. I think Miguel's scout was involved for a little longer in combat than Pike's scout, and that probably meant that he was able to deal a little bit more damage. Anyways, Miguel is not going to get the man-at-arms upgrade here because he has 2 militias left. One of them is rather low in health, so at this point there is no point getting the militias or the man-at-arms upgrade out. And let's see if these militias can actually march into the base of Pike, who is now walling himself up. Worth noting that there is a hole over here at Pike's base, and I wonder if he knows that. He technically sees it, but we'll see if he is actually going to wall that one off. 2 militias shouldn't really cause a lot of chaos over here, and it looks like Pike is just going to go out and take the hunt with his wheels. In the meanwhile, we're gonna have Miguel getting the first archer range in already, and he's going for skirm, so it's a man-at-arms skirm play, which is completely reasonable. As I said, your opponent is going to be playing archers, and his range works faster than yours, so there is no point playing the archer war against a Briton player. And what can Britons do in Feudal Age against pure skirms? They can go for their own scouts, but I don't think that as Britons you really want to commit to scouts, because your cavalry in the long run isn't going to be great. So the fact that you would have to go for scouts and then knights is, I think, already an achievement for Miguel. In fact, if Miguel goes camel and skirmisher, then that could be a pretty tough composition to beat for Pike. He would need something like knights, mangonels, and crossbows combined to be able to deal with that. Anyways, the fact that Miguel has skirmishers on the field is going to mean that his damage output against the villagers isn't going to be great, but it doesn't really matter for him. He just wants to make sure that his opponents will not be able to hit him with the archers. And it looks like Miguel is going for some very, very ambitious walls. This villager is idle for a brief moment, but as I said, especially these walls are a little bit overly ambitious for my taste. But the thing is that his opponent is playing archers and he's tracking this army, so he knows that there is no archers coming his way right now. And it looks like he's just going to play very, very defensive and play an eco heavy game. Remember that even though he does not have horse color, he's gonna have more food on those farms because he's having the Chinese team bonus working for him. So the fact that he's having a couple of farms with drop like this is much better than in the case of Pike. So they are pretty much doing very similar things. However, at the end of the day, I think that Miguel's eco is going to be slightly better, and he's also cleaning up archers, which is a pretty expensive loss for Pike overall. Miguel also had very little TC idle time overall when it comes to Chinese. Obviously, with Chinese, you're not going to have 0-second TC idle time because of the way that Chinese start with, but a 40 seconds TC idle time combined until Fuel Age is very nice for Miguel. Anyways, both players do have quite a lot of villager idle time, and that is surprising considering that neither of them are actually getting pushed. So these are just, you know, sloppy mistakes, sort of, like Pike having a villager idle here for who knows how long. Miguel also had an idle villager here for quite a while. So these are some pretty high villager idle time counts when it comes to pro players, and you can see that, like, it's not like Pike is microing anything or whatnot. He's just not paying attention to these villagers. Maybe he's not using his idle villager hotkey or something like that. But it's not like he's just distracted or so. He was just not paying attention to that, and that's something that I have seen from Miguel as well. So whoever wins this series, they will have to cut down on these little things because stronger players could actually exploit that, and there is going to be a huge competition to get into the Hidden Cup main event. Obviously, the qualifiers is single elimination, which means that if you lose a series, you're out. There is actually prize money for reaching, I think, maybe even the second round of the qualifiers, but definitely the decider games. So if you actually get to the decider games, then you will get a couple $100. I think the entire prize pool of the qualifiers is $2,500. But obviously, everybody who's playing the qualifiers is dreaming of getting into the main event because the prize money for that is just enormous, basically. $60,000 minimum, but there will also be additional contributions most likely to that. Like T90 is going to add some himself based on his Twitch subscriber count and whatnot. So I would think that even 70... I don't think 75,000 is something that we're going to reach, but 70,000 seems like a reasonable number, and obviously everybody is dreaming about getting there, which would be one of the biggest 1v1 events of... definitely the biggest 1v1 event of recent memory, but also one of the biggest 1v1 events of all time. Anyways, this is what I was referring to. Skirmishers just having a very good day against archers. That being said, that archer armor is very late for Miguel, so he took a fight here that he shouldn't have taken in my perspective. I don't know why he was forcing this, in fact. That's a mystery to me. Why was he forcing this fight over here? It's not like he was able to kill anything anyways, because this one was walled off. He could have waited on this hill, for example, until he gets the archer armor, and then those skirms would have been much better. Now he lost most of his skirms over here, so that was a little bit sloppy from Miguel overall. Also had quite a lot of TC idle time, and now he's preparing for a double stable knight switch. It could technically be camels as well, but I feel like it's gonna be knights, because he isn't seeing a clear confirmation from Pike at, you know, Pike going for knights or scouts. So there is no point opening camels here. You're most likely just going to open with knights. If your opponent is going to end up making knights to deal with your skirms, then you're just going to mix in a couple of camels, but this should be a knights opening from Miguel. Now he has horse color. Pike is still seeding farms without horse color. This is actually a disaster for him though. And as I said, I think that Pike is a very skilled player who is awfully rusty right now. That's actually a smart move from him that he's not finishing those farms until horse color doesn't kick in though. That was actually a very nice move from him, and that's basically the way that you should be doing it. And with Britons, he's going to continue with crossbows, but that's my problem with Britons on this one. They're just so predictable. Worst case scenario, Miguel can still add some skirms and go for elite skirms to supplement his knights, and knight elite skirm is going to be much superior than just, you know, pure crossbows from Pike. Castration times are completely identical. It is worth noting, however, that Miguel at the end of the day only has a 1 villager lead, and with Chinese you desire to have 2 or 3. So yeah, that 1 minute 5 seconds TC time now is a little bit more than what should have happened. Not really a big deal though, especially with the knights coming out for him, plus 2 defense and chain barding on the way. And I like this town center. This is actually a very, very smart TC because it's going to help you moving towards this wood line, and it also makes this wood line a lot more protected, and also this part of your base protected. Like, you could place that TC, I don't know, for example, on this wood line. But if you do that, you leave this part of your base very, very open. So this town center is actually very smart for Miguel. It's a very, very good TC location for him. This other TC is also nice. Nicely spreading out the eco. The condition here is that the crossbows must not actually get into your eco from this side, which is a potential danger. But anyways, Miguel is going to have the knights out on the field, comes in with +1 attack as well, so it's going to be +1, +2 knights relatively fast, and he already has bows, and he's going to be on 3 TCs, whereas for Pike he's dropping TC number 2 only, and not even a university for ballistics, which is a little bit surprising to me, to be honest. Britons even have the cheaper TC, but he was also only able to afford 1 extra TC with no university, so he seems to be a little bit low on wood overall. Anyways, here come the knights from Miguel getting husbandry in 2, and he's also getting town patrol, or is that town watch? It's town watch only. So town watch is going to allow him to spot those crossbows from a greater distance, and that's actually a beautiful fight over here. Smaller groups of crossbows being isolated and then taken down by knights is not something that Pike can afford. When you're playing crossbows, then you probably want like one big blob of crossbows for you against a knight player. Even numbers of knights will always clap. Even numbers of crossbows over there. So now Pike is going to try and react to this one with a monastery. And he opens up the walls over here. I wonder if he wants to drop a TC, but that is not a decision I like. Like, he was aware that the knights were coming. Now it's alright because this is going to be walled off for the time being. But deleting those walls could have actually resulted in a much bigger disaster. Crossbows will scare away the knights for now, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a forward siege workshop from Miguel. As I said, that is going to be a forward siege workshop here. And considering that there is no siege workshop from Pike, you can actually make an argument for opening with a battering ram here. If Pike had a siege workshop here, which he has, like, he doesn't have to make a siege workshop because he's up against knights. If there was a siege workshop here, I wouldn't like a ram because a mangonel from behind could take it down. But as long as your opponent doesn't have a siege workshop over here, a ram is a completely legitimate opening here for Miguel, and indeed he is going for it. The target will most likely be this archer range. For now, it's worth noting that, as I said, we now have a 9 villagers lead for Miguel, and that is pure 9 villagers because both players only have a wheelbarrow. And it is also worth noting that the map control for Pike overall was not super amazing. So he's got like this wood line and this wood line over here. He wanted to go out to this wood line, but that wasn't really possible. It looks like he's going to use the monks to pick up relics right now, whereas Miguel is preparing his bush over here. He's gonna get the monastery over here. He can pick that relic up nice and easy, but it's more about if Pike goes for defensive monks and converts a couple of knights, Miguel wants to be able to convert them back, and also Miguel wants to be able to heal his knights when there is no combat. That's the other thing. So healing your knights and your expensive units like that is always a pretty important thing. So anyways, as I said, one thing that's worth noting is that Chinese farms also last longer, especially once heavy blow kicks in for Miguel. That's going to make that eco pretty damn strong. In fact, it's only 35 on food. Miguel's eco is just up in the skies right now, and I feel like Pike needs to start doing something here. Like, he's playing defensive, which is fine, but he's just flat out getting outboomed. Even if Miguel didn't push this one, Miguel would have the better eco by now, and having a stronger food eco also means that, you know, it's going to be very, very easy for Miguel to just save up for Imperial. He doesn't have to spend a lot of gold on units right now, or food on units, because it's not like he's using any units, right? No units lost means that he doesn't have to actually spend a lot on units. He's even going to send in knights to try and finish off that archer range as fast as possible. As I said, there is nothing behind this one for Pike, which means that the knights could flood in, and that range is going to go down awfully fast. Scorpions are in, mangonels are in, battering ram comes in as well, and honestly, Miguel, if he sends a couple more villagers to gold, we could be thinking about an Imperial for him as well. It's also worth noting that he's 7 on stone, and when you're in a map position like this, your opponent is sitting back with crossbows, you have the knights out over here, you would win an open field engagement, but your opponent is camping behind his walls, you can just drop a castle somewhere around over here, and that's going to give you nice leverage over your opponent. And you can see that Miguel is not risking anything, he's just gonna fall back over here. He did lose the mangonel, it seems like, and that ram is potentially going to get picked off as well. Or not. There is still a lot of HP on that. That ram shouldn't actually go down. And Miguel is wisely waiting. Look at this. Miguel is actually waiting for the crossbows to hit open field, and then he's going to unleash the knight. This is a huge mistake from Pike. Like, this is overly greedy, trying to snap down that battering ram. He may not go punished for that, and now he's going to start falling back. But there is a mangonel, and the split isn't going to be perfect. So there was a huge hit over there. I don't know why Pike is making skirmishers, but that is going to be of no use against the knights. And 4 monks over here get a couple of conversions. The Knights of Pike need to go for the mangonel, but they're not doing that. Like, Pike needs to actually send the knights to kill the mango, and the crossbows are still alive, but we're talking about Miguel actually being close to imping this one. That's a little bit sloppy from Miguel, though. He just throws away a mangonel. He could have killed that knight very easily had he not run away. But as I said, he's got monks here. He's picking up free relics. He's going to be able to use those monks to heal, and he's just going to play this safe. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a castle some round over here, maybe on this hill, and then just wait until Imperial go for Cavalier and finish this game off. Speaking of Imperial, Pike is not far away from that either. He's behind by 11 villagers, but he's hoping that he can actually get our Arbalest power spike over here. He's going to be behind by 40 seconds though, and Miguel is also adding TC number 4. So Miguel's eco is going to be stronger. Miguel is not sitting on free relics. Miguel is going to be able to drop another castle. There is going to be a castle here from Pike which secures this gold mine and sort of solidifies his control over his base over here in the north. Also helps securing this gold mine. So let's see what Miguel is up to. Indeed, here comes the castle over here. And we're going to have a siege ram push. And many times we have said that one of the things that Britons struggle against the most is siege ram. They just don't have anything that can reasonably deal with siege ram. And in this case, you don't really have to have an amazing army for Pike. All you need to have is just reasonable army numbers that can deal with a couple of Arbalasts, and then, you know, just help out the siege rams. You don't necessarily have to completely annihilate your opponent. You just need to make sure that villagers don't kill the rams. That's basically the whole story of this one. That being said, Miguel is gonna be having a much better map control, so there's a chance he's gonna be able to pick this relic up as well. These neutral resources also seem to fall into his hands, and I feel like this is just the quiet before the storm right now, because Miguel seems to have a much better position in this game. That being said, Pike is absolutely not out of this game right now. In fact, if he can use those orbs and pick off a couple of villagers over here, that could still be something. The concern is how is he going to deal with the mobility advantage of Miguel's army, and that's my main concern here for Pike. That we're going to have Cavalier, you see Kepdram is immediately coming in, and the food count isn't amazing for Miguel right now, but if he idles his stables a little bit, he's going to be able to save up 1,000 food by the time that Kepdram finishes, that he can absolutely click Siege Ram immediately, and then Siege Ram here would just open up this side and start running in. Pike has moved the majority of his eco to the far left of his base, so a wall breach over here wouldn't really hurt him immediately. Pike is up to Imperial, and it looks like he's going to use that knight to do some scouting around. Let's see if he's going to be able to see the castle. Yes, he will. So he knows about the castle over there and immediately queues up a trap. But here is Siege Ram, here's Conscription, Cavalier, Blast Furnace as well. So those cavalry will soon be fully upgraded. And the bigger concern, as I said, for Pike is that how is he going to deal with the Siege Ram play over here. There's a couple of mangonels, so I wonder if he wants to tech into Onager. But even then, the problem is that he's having 38 Arbs versus 26 Cavalier. That's not enough, especially because you have to manually micro your Arbs, because otherwise they will just shoot the Siege Ram. It looks like we're going to have a light cav move over here from Pike. I think he may be expecting elite skirms. We're also going to have a couple of outposts all across the map from Miguel for some more exploration. Indeed, he did take this relic over here as well, so he's sitting on 4 relics right now. And here comes the big push. Miguel says, okay, that's going to be an interesting castle spot. That could immediately be trapped down, but here is the Siege Rams, and as I said many times, Britons just don't have the means of stopping Siege Rams over here. Oh, that's very cute, trying to quick wall the Siege Rams out with Palisades. Obviously, it wouldn't really work out, and Mangonels aren't amazing at killing Siege Rams, so they do some damage to them, but you see that they are not necessarily enough to kill them, although it looks like there may be enough firepower over here from Pike to stop this push over here. That being said, the Cavalier can just breach Pike's eco over here, run inside and kill 20 villagers ASAP, so Even if this castle survives, which could possibly happen, there's already traps to back this one up from Miguel, and more importantly, the cavalry is just going to run straight into the eco of Pike. And this is what I was referring to when I said that I don't know how Pike is going to deal with the mobility advantage of the Chinese player over here. And this is why I feel like Chinese is just a better choice here on this map. It gives you more versatility. Britons are so much focused on their archers, but they have very little flexibility. They are extremely good as an archer civ, but just very little flexibility is available for them, whereas Chinese, they're much more flexible. They can play skerns, they can play archers very well, they can play cavalry very well, and we have seen an example of the cavalry being used here by Miguel. And even though, as you see, this army may be able to stop about 20 cavalier with the support of the castle, it was about the mobility advantage, and that the cavalier could just run straight into the eco and finish this one off. Miguel takes game number 1 over here, which means that we will go into the home map of Pike over here. So Chinese is gone for Miguel, and Britons are gone. This was one of the later picks for Pike. I wonder if he was actually planning to use Mayans, because if you think about that, Pike's home maps are island. That's definitely not a place where you use Mayans. Probably not on slopes as well. Maybe on Gold Rush. Definitely not on Bay. So you either wanted Mayans for Gold Rush or you wanted it for Arabia. And I have a feeling that Pike originally planned to use Mayans here, but that was sniped down by Miguel, and he ended up using Britons. But this means that we're actually going to either island or we're going to slopes. And it looks like we're going to islands over here. So let me load up the game and we can jump into the next one over here. So welcome to game number 2 over here. This is islands in Hidden Cup 4 qualifiers between Pike and Miguel. Miguel to game number 1. This is Pike's first home map. There is a couple of Easter eggs with this map. I will probably mention it 100 times when I'm casting, but this is actually related to T90 placing free archer ranges on a neutral island. We also talked about that before, but the islands were balanced a little bit more, so now you have one patch of gold, one patch of stone on one island, and there is another island with one patch of gold on that. And as I said, I personally think that it would be a little bit more balanced if this relic was on the other gold island. So you have like one island with stone and gold and the other one with a relic and gold. This is the 5th relic on the map, and each player has 2 others on his own island. So the islands seem to be relatively similar in terms of shape. Maybe Miguel's island is a little bit wider, but I don't think it matters that much for him. In fact, he's got an interestingly shaped wood line over here, which technically could be extremely helpful if he gets raided, which is somewhat unlikely. We're going to see a Portuguese versus Italians fight over here, 2 of the best water civs out here. And most of the people here would prefer Italians, most likely. However, I am one of those where I'm saying that, you know, I can see Portuguese being better than Italians over here. So the cheaper gold cost on the ships helps you immensely at the beginning of the game, and it looks like Miguel is also going to have some very easy to push deer, and he's going to capitalize on that. Sometimes the deer spawns pretty far out on islands, as you see over here. Sometimes they spawn behind wood lines, so not all the times it is this easy to push in the deer. In this case, this is going to be very helpful for Miguel, and sort of the same thing for Pike. It's not impossible to push this either, but it's not as easy as it is for Miguel. Now, back in the days, many people have used their scouts to lure in boars in situations like this because they didn't want to lose HP on the villager, plus they didn't want to, you know, have the villager walk out here and walk back because that takes villager time. Instead, they used the scout to lure in the boar and just take the health loss on their scouts. People no longer do that because in case you get landed, that scout could be extremely valuable. So just for the sake of, you know, not dying to landing, or at least not starting from behind when it comes to either you yourself landing or potentially getting landed by your opponent, you're just no longer using that scout to lure in boars unless the circumstances are special. For example, if you would be using a Mezzo Civ, you could actually use that because the eagle can be healed within the town center, and there is enough time to do that before you would potentially get landed. However, why would even anyone use meso sieves on water? So that's basically the reason why you're not seeing this one. Anyways, we're going to have side docks over here for Pike, which means that it is somewhat possible that he's going to go for straight galleys, whereas front dock for Miguel, which means that he's going to play fire galleys in this one, standard galley rush build order over here, with a little extra boost from the deer. Pike also tried pushing in some deer, but as you see, they were pretty far out, and he somewhat struggled with that. And at the end of the day, there is 3 deer over here out of the 4, so he only managed to push in 1, whereas his opponent already went for all 4 deer, I believe. And look at this, Miguel is just taking a second board. That's so good for him. I mean, he has already eaten 4 deer, he still has 160 food inside this boar, and he's just bringing the second boar. That's actually somewhat inefficient, or it's going to be somewhat inefficient for him as well, because the thing is that when you're playing a galley rush build like this, you're just going to send all these villagers from beneath your TC to Golden Wood when you click up to Feudal, and that means that a lot of food is going to rot beneath your TC. So, as good as this looks like, the fact that he pushed in 4 deer, it's not really going to matter that much, although he may try delaying his feudal age here a little bit. Or not. He's gonna get loom. You just get loom for, you know, general safety, just to make sure that you don't die to a landing. And apparently, Pike is gonna go for a greedier approach, not getting loom and going up immediately. And this is why I said that, you know, at the end of the day, yeah, sure, you lured in the second board late, and you still have a lot of food to work with, but does that matter? Because you will have to send your villagers to Golden Wood anyways. So, I really wonder, as we will have Miguel getting a second lumber camp up, and we'll also have these villagers going to gold. So yeah, this board is coming in late, and it still has a lot of food on it, but that doesn't matter, because it's just going to rot away. You're gonna have a couple of villagers added on it once you reach feudal, sure, but that's going to be quite a lot of food loss. I think the real value in the deer pushes is that you have a lot of sheep saved up, and that is actually huge. Compare that to Pike. Pike actually has 4 sheep here, and Miguel has 5, but Pike already consumed both of his boars, so he's going to have to start taking that sheep immediately. Whereas Miguel is gonna be able to go for the boar here first, and he also has 1 extra sheep compared to his opponent. Anyways, slightly better feudal age over here for Pike, dropping dock number 2. I could have imagined that dock being a little bit further away as well, but it's not really a big deal, and indeed we're going to see straight galley opening. Whereas for Miguel, he is actually splitting up his docks a little bit more, so that increases the fishing efficiency for him. And also, he's going to play galleys, interestingly. That's an interesting decision. Front dock galleys is not something that you frequently play, so I wonder why Miguel decided by that. He doesn't know that his opponent is side docking, so it's not coming from any knowledge, right? Look at this. He doesn't know that his opponent is side docking, which means that this is a blind front galley play, which I don't like. Like, if Pike actually went for fire galleys here, Miguel could be in trouble. Luckily for him, he's not gonna go for that, and that means that it's going to be good old-fashioned galley wars. And let's see which direction Pike is heading. If Pike is heading to the back of Miguel's base, that's a win for Miguel, I think. Because the front dock, it's a little bit riskier to go for the galleys compared to the side dock. And it looks like Pike is going to sail all the way around and now changes his mind. He probably knows that it's not a back dock, so it has to be either a front dock or a side dock over here. Anyways, as I said, the extra food over here on this board is going to help you out a little bit, whereas Pike is already consuming the sheep. Fast blacksmith by him for fletching. Blacksmith is not coming in for Miguel yet, and soon we may have some water engagements. Now let's see what Miguel thinks about his opponent. He's gonna wait until 4 galleys, and now he's going to look for the dock. When he sees that it's not a front dock, he's probably going to know that, hey, it's going to be fast galley play from a side dock, and this could be dangerous for Miguel because these galleys could go straight into his fishing eco, and galleys can kill fishing ships really fast, but this could also be dangerous for Pike because his fishing eco could be exposed to this one as well. These galleys will intercept the ship, and remember that Miguel doesn't have fletching right now. So the fast fletching from Pike over here is really going to show, and what is Miguel doing? He may be just trying to snipe down fishing ships over here, but his opponent is actually on a fletching already, so these galleys are slightly better. There is also reinforcements coming in here. And now the galleys will head back, so Pike knows that he needs to save his fishing eco. He might want to save them, you know, by sending them a little bit more to the back so they don't get sniped down, but as I said, Pike is going to be able to hold this one off, and Miguel is potentially going to lose those galleys over here. He should be losing at least one galley, indeed, that goes down to the bottom of the ocean, and we're talking about 9 versus 7 galleys overall. And remember that the cast stage is cheaper for the Italian player over here, which could be something to monitor for early war galleys. It looks like Miguel will go for a 4th dock over here, once again pretty much spreading out the docks as much as possible so that his fishing eco will keep being very, very efficient, whereas all these clustered up docks will make the fishing eco a lot more inefficient once this and this deep fish is consumed. So there is like a much bigger area where Miguel can be doing very, very efficient fishing with small travel distances for the ships to drop off the food. And because both of the fishing ecos are alive, I would expect to have a fast castle age from both players. In fact, Pike is already making the 2nd building to go up. It is technically possible that you can sell the stone to go into casting. That's a huge move from Miguel. He loops around and snipes down quite a lot of fishing ships. So even though the galleys go down, at the end of the day, there is only 1 fishing ship left here from Pike, which is an enormous win for Miguel, if you ask me. The galley counts are absolutely even, but Miguel having 3 extra fishing ships over his opponent now is going to show soon in the food count. And indeed, as you see, Pike is selling the stone. This is a trick that often is used by players who want to make sure that they actually win. When you have to go into casting, you can see that Pike is a very, very skilled player. So he's rusty. He's very, very rusty because he hasn't been playing very, very frequently. But when it comes to just pure skills, you can see on his galley micro that this isn't his first ever galley fight, that's for sure. That being said, if he wants to go into Castle Age here, I'm not sure why he's forcing this one this much. And Miguel is also selling the stone to go up. His resources are looking much, much better though. Remember, the extra fishing ships help, and even the pushed in deer also helps for Miguel. So at the end of the day, Miguel will actually click up to Castle Age faster than Pike. Pike is very, very low on food, and he has to idle his TC a lot as well to compensate for that. So losing those fishing ships hurts so much for Pike, because the missing food is actually missing because of those fishing ships missing. And even though he has a cheaper click up to the Castle Age, his opponent is going to be up faster because Miguel was able to preserve his fishing gear completely untouched. So those sneaky ships came in clutch for Miguel. Otherwise, this would have been a lot more problematic for him. And now he's even taking some good engagements over here. At the end of the day, this is going to be a relatively even trade of galleys, but the fact that Pike is still not up is actually going to be very, very concerning, because Miguel is like 140 away from Castle Age. Pike hasn't clicked up, and it's going to be something like 230 or so to go up into Castle Age. So once Miguel is up to Castle Age, this is going to be an awfully hard situation for Pike. Let's see if Miguel can focus down the low HP galleys, because that's what you want to do in this situation. And there's many low HP galleys in that fleet, so you could suddenly even things out here, because the overall HP I think is much higher. It's 8 ships for a combined health of 501, whereas this is only 7 ships, but the overall HP is 717. So even though this is actually more ships for Pike, the overall health is much better for Miguel, who is more than happy to just sit back and chill, sitting on the fishing eco that he has. He's also able to use this Voyager to take additional shorefish deposits, because he spread out the docks a little bit more, whereas for Pike, he could still take this shorefish, and that's sort of a mistake that he didn't do that. In fact, he blocked his own shorefish over here, but he may still be able to access it. I'm not sure why Pike didn't leave a Voyager around to continue fishing, and now all Miguel needs to do is just fall back and wait until he gets the War Galley upgrade. He wants to wait it out, but he may already start fighting when he gets Botkin, because if he waits for too long, then Pike is going to be able to run away. So you want to engage once you have a little bit of an advantage, and look at that. Immediately, when Botkin kicks in, Pike says, yeah, it's GG. He knows exactly that War Galley is going to kick in a moment. And in a nutshell, what happened was that Pike's food eco wasn't great. Miguel's extra deer push helped him out immensely, but it was also about the fact that there was a lot of shorefish here that was left untouched, and that would have been extremely valuable because food is somewhat scarce. So instead of having 4 villagers on farms over here, you could have had 3 villagers taking hunt and 1 taking shorefish, and maybe then you are not falling behind by this much in Castle Age. But at this point, this game was pretty much over. Miguel takes a very, very easy second win over here over Pike, and you can see that Pike's got the skills, but it's more about, you know, Pike really seems rusty in here. Loses his home map pretty decisively, to be honest. Portuguese for Miguel, and Pike is going to lose with Italians. And the last home map for Pike over here, his tournament life on the line, he has picked Slopes. I would be surprised if this wasn't an Indian pick, but as I said, I feel like Slopes is no longer the Indian map. It used to be a very, very strong map for Indians. I don't think it's actually going to be that good over there. In fact, I would pick Mongols over Indians anytime on Slopes now, which means that I think Miguel is going to pick Mongols and we're going to have a classic Mongols versus Indians matchup. It used to be the case as well for Hidden Cup 3 that we have seen so many Mongols versus Indians plays, but their Indians were much, much stronger. With that being said, Pike is going to be playing Indians, to no one's surprise, in blue, mostly because he wants to capitalize on this shorefish, but this is not really enough shorefish to give you a huge boost with Indians. It's a nice little eco boost, but it's not like something that's going to be amazing for you overall. And the other side is Mongols for Miguel, which I think is actually even better on this map now. Unit composition wise, it's much, much better. You don't just capitalize on the hunt over here, you also capitalize on the hunt from the boars, and you can still take the shorefish, and even Mongols doing shorefishing is a very, very reasonable source of food, so it's not like it is that much better for Indians. So from every aspect now, I believe that Mongols are a much, much more viable civilization for this map. We'll see how much they will actually move out towards these pawns, because we have seen mixed results from the players so far. Some players feel like it is just too much of a risk to move out here, potentially getting your villagers crushed for only 2 pawns of shorefish and 4 deer. But on the other hand, if you have a civilization that has a nice little eco boost, and you see that Miguel is bringing in the first boar very, very fast over here, maybe he is afraid of laming, that is a possibility, but he just wants to have that Mongol eco bonus right from the start, and he's going to move out as well. This is a tricky question. What do you do with Mongols? I think with Mongols you take the hunt first, because the hunt is actually faster with Mongols than the shorefish with a general villager. So it is more viable to take the hunt right now. Although, on the other hand, if you're taking the hunt, you will have to force drop the villagers off. Otherwise, it's going to take quite a lot of time until you actually get your food from those villagers. So you could make an argument for a shorefish just for the sake of having a more consistent food income. But I also agree that probably the best way to do this is take the hunt with the villagers, take 4 villas out there, so instead of milling the berries, you mill this position, and you will just force drop the food from the huntable here in the middle. That's probably one of the reasons why Miguel actually brought in the boar that early, so that he's actually able to sustain villager production with only 4 villagers on this boar, and he doesn't have to force drop these villas on the deer. Anyways, it looks like Pike is not even moving out right now, which is even more questionable for this map. I mean, come on, man. If you pick Indians, you might as well move out to the shorefish, because that's the only eco bonus that you're gonna have, right? And comparing it to Miguel, by the way, you may have noticed that Miguel dropped the mill before the lumber camp. This is basically, there's 2 approaches that you can do this. You either drop the lumber camp first and wait until you stockpile wood to drop the mill, which is basically the standard way of playing the game. If you take a look at an Arabia build order, it always has lumber camp first, mill later. But here you can really make an argument for dropping the mill first and then taking the straggler trees to pile up wood for lumber camp. This is basically yielding the same result. However, it helps you take the deer and shorefish a little bit earlier, which is pretty crucial over here, especially if you are doing this without loom, and Miguel is doing that without loom, because this way you're actually able to finish off with this one, or at least the majority of it, before the opponent could potentially arrive with a drush. So I still think that Miguel could actually invest into loom, and now he's going for it upon seeing the scout. I think he saw the scout and immediately goes for loom. And you can see that Pike is just going for the standard approach. Instead of placing the mill on the berries, he's just going to go for the shorefish. But at the end of the day, these villagers will not finish with the shorefish and the huntables by the time the opponent reaches Feudal Age. Whereas for Miguel, by the time the opponent reaches Feudal Age, they will finish with the deer, and I think they will finish with the majority of the shortfish as well. So I think the efficiency here has been a little bit better for Miguel, and the preparation for this map really shows. He is going to be playing scouts over here, to no one's surprise, going for a pretty amazing 17 pop up. Pike is going to be doing 19 pop at the earliest, but it's probably going to be... Is it going to be 21 pop? Come on, man. 21 pop is doable on Arabia, and I just don't understand. If he wants to play scouts over here, as Miguel eats some damage on that scout, if he wants to play scouts, might as well move out for the shortfish a little bit earlier, because I don't think that Pike has actually used up his eco bonus as much as could have been possible, and he is going to end up playing archers. I was considering that when I saw the 21 pop, and 21 pop archers is reasonable, I would say, even though not something that is amazing. The question is that the real problem that Pike will be facing is that his base is wide open. And the mobility advantage that Miguel is going to have with scouts is going to be crazy. And there is also going to be the added effect of Miguel being able to get quite a lot of scouts on the field. Probably 2, maybe even 3 scouts on the field by the time Pike even reaches Feudal Age. And these villagers are awfully exposed over here. You may need to pull them pretty fast. Lumberjacks are also pretty exposed. So this is the main concern for Pike right now. Miguel dropping the stable gets the first set of scouts in, queues up 3 right at the beginning, and he's also going to mill the other pawn. Now this is a little bit risky, but at this point I feel like he's fine taking this risk, because he knows that he's still beating his opponent to Feudal Age. Now it looks like Pike is going to turn this into Man-at-Arms build. I'm not sure if this was the initial plan. Man-at-Arms can be reasonable, but this is why Miguel moved out to this pawn so fast. By the time the Man-at-Arms arrive, look at this. This could be scouts as well, but by the time the Man-at-Arms arrive, this pawn is going to be almost done fishing. And that's going to be a huge thing. Because Pike knows that his opponent is over here, he has scouted that, but by the time the Man-at-Arms arrive, these voyages will pretty much be done with the food over here, so I don't think they will return home in time, so this could be a couple of voyagers lost here, but they will pretty much be done with this one, so they won't have any trouble running away from this. And now it's going to be an archer range. The reason why the Man-at-Arms could be reasonable against the scouts is because Man-at-Arms will trade fairly evenly against scouts over here, and Miguel, I think he was unprepared for the Man-at-Arms opening here. He definitely seemed unprepared for this one, and that's going to be one voyager lost in this one. We have seen expert players bailing on the shorefish when the opponent reaches Feudal Age, and you could see why. This is 2 villagers killed, and also the slope is going to give you a nice little hill bonus when you're actually attacking downhills, and you can actually use that scout to block the villagers. And this is the first game where Pike is having a rather convincing lead, I would say, up until he loses 2 villagers to the scouts of Miguel. So at the end of the day, Pike killed 3 villagers, Miguel killed only 2. And remember that Miguel also has this hunt available and this shorefish available for him, so his food eco is going to be nicer. Palisade walls will no longer allow you to quick wall against Men-at-Arms, and Miguel losing villager number 4 potentially over here. He's waiting with the scout so he can trade this one off. It's not ideal that you have to trade scouts off to Men-at-Arms. You want to avoid that one whenever possible. And at the end of the day, Pike has had a better start. And this one also poked down one scout over here at the back of his own base. And now there is spears and archers coming in, so maybe Pike isn't going down as easily as many of you may have thought. 2 games were actually very easy for Miguel, we can say that. He was dominating both games, but now Pikeman, well, not Pikeman, but overall Pike, is actually doing a very nice job. Could actually get another Voyager kill, but nope. The scout is gonna get killed overall, and at this point, if you're Pike, you just trade off the Man-at-Arms against the scouts and use the spears and archers now to push in. We'll see Miguel getting some archers in here for himself as well. Potentially a few scrims could also work. But behind this one, Pike is walling himself up, and I feel like he has weathered the initial storm. He evacuated his villagers from the berry or from the shorefish over here. And really, the question that you have to ask if it's actually worth it to go for Indians on a map where you only take 2 drops of shorefish. And I don't think it's actually reasonable. This is why I don't think that Indians are that great on this map anymore. They just don't give you that huge boost. 2 tiles of shorefish isn't amazing by any means. Anyways, Miguel is down by a couple of wills when it comes to villager losses, but Pike had a lot more T-cell time. 1 minute of T-cell time compensates for 2 villagers killed, which means that at the end of the day, Pike is at 26 wills and so is Miguel. And that's a problem for Pike. Pike is going to lose that spearman over there, he's losing the archers, and it's not like he has actually been able to capitalize on the fact that he killed 5 villagers and only lost 2. He's supposed to have a 3 villagers lead, but in reality, the villager count is absolutely even between the 2 players, plus there is also double barax already in for Miguel, and also Miguel is able to take the shorefish, Miguel was able to take the hunt, and now the scouts could actually probably jump that spearman, honestly, although some of them are low HP. Yeah, this is a disaster for Pike, holy smokes. Because all these villagers, well, maybe they can actually fight this one, but there is going to be a couple of casualties, and what Miguel could just do is just keep coming back. It's poke and probe. You have to send this scout in first because that's the highest HP one. The other 2 are low HP. You want those to be just damage dealers and not necessarily the ones taking damage. There is going to be blacksmith from Pike for fletching, and he dispatches the archers to deal with this one, but there's already archers and skirms coming in for Miguel, and villager count even, but his eco upgrades are slightly stronger. As I said, he was able to take both pawns and both huntables as well in this one, and the fighting downhills are the scouts, so they will get another villager pick. It's 5-4 now in terms of villager KD, and soon archers and skirms will arrive. Fletching will also come in a tiny bit faster over here for Miguel, but it's going to be about the extra skirms that are being added to decide the fight. Plus you also have a couple of scouts here that could potentially soak up some damage. So yeah, this is looking good for Miguel, if you ask me. He still has his berries completely intact, so does Pike. But here's the deal. There's archers and skirms supported by scouts, whereas it's only archers from Pike over here, and the skirms will be pretty tough to deal with overall. They are trying to intercept an archer over here before that joins the main group, and they will be able to damage it. And now, once again, the armor comes in here quite fast for Miguel. Just before he actually finished that, he actually takes a rather inefficient fight though. But now with, honestly, there is a low enough HP on these archers to justify a fight with 2 skirmishers. Villagers are being pulled to finish off these scouts, but this is actually a nice fight for Pike. He's able to clean up the skirms, loses a couple of archers, but he didn't lose a single villager. This is still open though, and I feel like Miguel is now thinking about going into Castle Age here with all the food he has. In fact, he's idling his TC a lot, so does Pike. So Pike also wants to go into Castle Age over here. He's sitting on a lot more gold than Miguel does, but I feel like Miguel just finishing the shorefish over here. He's gonna have 12 on food, on 13 as well on food from Pike. Overall villager count is relatively close, and I think that Castle Age times could be reasonably close as well, even though these archers delaying the villagers on the berries will actually have its impact on the Castle Age time of Pike. KD is actually pretty close, so this is definitely by far the closest game so far. And it looks like we're gonna have some additional skirmishers coming in here. Second range for Miguel, so he's going to continue with crossbows, but obviously in the long run you want cav archers and more importantly Mangadai. So for now we're gonna have Miguel working towards Castle Age, so does Pike. And at this point we have 5 archers versus 5 archers, but there is also 3 skirms accompanying it, and those 3 skirms could be annoying because they can actually win you a fight against the opponent's archers. And that helps Miguel push Pike's gold mine. Miguel having a slightly faster up over here, but Pike will soon follow, and it looks like Pike may just go and flank around with the crossbows, try to hit a gold mine or a wood line potentially. That would be the jackpot for him, I would say. But the fact that he leaves with his own archers is going to mean that his base is going to be exposed to the army of his opponent over here. It looks like Miguel is non-committal about this, which is the right decision, I believe. The TC is protecting the majority of this base. There's only a single range from Pike, whereas Miguel has already committed himself to double ranges and now keeps adding archers. I think he knows that his opponent is not at home and he's probably flanking him because he didn't see the army here. And that means that that army has to come in this direction and he tries to wall himself off. I wonder if these walls will be on time. I don't think so. And now he even sees the archers as they are taking down the Spearman. I don't think this wall is gonna be on time. Miguel will try to finish it off, but this is gonna be awfully tight. These walls are very, very low HP. You could have made an argument for just dropping a house here to use the stone mine as part of your wall. That could have actually made sense here. Anyways, at this moment, there could be an overchop here on this wood line in the future. As we'll have more and more skirmishers coming in here as well from Pike. Villagers here will survive, and it looks like we'll just have a couple of archers being dispatched to clean this one up, and Pike's archers shouldn't be able to get through those walls anyways. And now, Miguel commits to try and get through these walls. Archer armor was missing the whole time for Pike, which obviously hurts him immensely. So he's just getting +1 defense, an upgrade that has been there for Miguel for a long time, and now we're going to see crossbows coming in here pretty soon, and the third range, which makes me wonder if we're going to see a very, very fast switch into cav archers, and yes, we will. I like the decision to go for crossbows because you have 12 archers. That completely justifies a crossbowman play, and it looks like we'll have a response from Pike with the camels, but Indian camels have also been nerfed, so they're not as strong as they used to be. They are, like, they were never amazing against foot archers. In fact, if Pike is playing full camels, foot archers are actually better for Miguel, because the cav archers actually take a lot of extra damage from the camels. But cav archers will give you a little bit more mobility here, which could be something you consider. A defensive siege workshop comes in here from Pike, and there will also be a market being rushed up. And it seems like he's also going to move to this back gold mine, so he knows that he right now doesn't have the power to fight against this army, and he could potentially lose his gold mine, so he's going to fall back over here. And since his opponent is going camels, Miguel is just going to play cav archers with a fast husbandry, so he can run away from those camels, which is extremely important in this scenario, because you have to make sure that your initial cav archers will not get picked off by the camels. And it looks like we're just gonna have a triple range cav archer play, fast ballistics on the way for Miguel most likely. And these crossbows could actually intercept some of those camels over here, even with the hill advantage. Archers will get taken down very, very easily over here. And this TC could actually go denied as well if those crossbows spot it. There will be scorpions from Pike, and indeed the crossbows did see the TC over here, and that is going to be quite a lot of dead villagers if you ask me. The TC is at 80%. There's a scorpion here as well, but you can just dance around and pick off the villagers, honestly. Now the camels will engage. Camels will have +2 pierce armor over here, but that's not an amazing pierce armor. +2 is like unupgraded knights, and or like, well, not +2, but 2 pierce armor is unupgraded knights, and they will get eaten by crossbows with bodkin. And in the meanwhile, what's even more devastating for Pike is that he's going to get his eco raided by cav archers. It looks like Miguel has given up on this army, but he's got better things to do right now, and that is just killing villagers from his opponent with cav archers. And the next batch of cav archers is already being prepared over here. We could see a 3-0, and I would be a little bit surprised because I feel like Pike is a very, very good player, and I did expect him to be rusty, but I didn't expect him to be this rusty. Like, right now, I don't think Pike is necessarily playing on a top 50 level. It's actually closer to probably top 100 or so. Miguel, on the other hand, is looking kind of sharp, I would say. So he's slowly improving his gameplay compared to his previous self. So he has definitely stepped his game up compared to the last half a year or so. He's still making some mistakes, so it's not really perfect. Like, for example, look at all that villager idle time. That's an awful lot, and I also said that in the Arabia game that the villager idle time was actually somewhat disappointing for Miguel. But he's slowly getting back there, and we'll have to see how his bracket looks like to determine if he's actually going to be able to qualify. But I don't think that he played in Hidden Cup 3. We'll see if he's going to play in Hidden Cup 4. I think he played in Hidden Cup 2 back then, but I don't remember him playing Hidden Cup 3, and I think I'm right about that. Anyways, at this point we have 2 TCs for both players, but look at Miguel. 60 villagers compared to 37. I don't even know how that actually adds up, to be honest. Because Pike lost 9 more villagers than Miguel, as we have some nice scorpion hits over here. But that would be a 9 villagers difference. And there is also a lot more TC at a time for Pike, but it's only 3 minutes, which would account for something like 6 or 7 villagers. So that would be like a 15 villagers difference, but this is actually a 22 villagers difference overall. So I'm not sure how this happened. Maybe the second TC was up faster for Miguel, I can see that happening, although I think he just finished that second TC. And it looks like he's going to get TC number 3 up over here on the outside. It's 64 villagers against 40. That is a devastating deficit for Pike right now, and it looks like Miguel is going to mix in some knights so he can deal with the scorpions. In the meanwhile, we'll have a couple of cav archers looping around. I love this move. This is the way that you're supposed to be playing cav archers, exactly. Use a couple of cav archers as a detachment and just try to get some raiding damage done while you are distracting the primary force of your opponent. So it's 65 eco compared to 42, and we'll have a siege workshop now from Miguel. So he's gonna bring in a Mangano to deal with the scorpions. He's just not going to let his knights do that job, because there is enough camos around to kill the knights before they would be able to finish off the scorpions. That being said, the knights will still have their effect. They will be able to soak up some damage. They may still try to dive in on the scorpions, but I think Miguel is waiting for the Mangonel, and now he changes his mind. He's gonna be like, okay, you don't want to fight? It's fine by me. That's going to be most of the knights getting slaughtered, but he's just going to bring in his cav archers and say, okay, I'm just gonna take the fight to your base then. Pike is floating a lot of wood over here, and he doesn't have an outside TC over here, which is, I think, something that you will have to go for at some point, because you want to have a safe wood income, like a reliable big wood source compared to these little patches of trees. Cav archers running straight past the TC over here, and it looks like they will get no villager kills. That was actually a pretty nice move from Pike, and now Miguel is getting sandwiched between the camels, and the scorpions will come in as well. Look, this is very, very nice from Pike. Scorpions firing as well. This is a disaster for Miguel, and as much as I was praising him in this series, this is a game-losing move here. This is an actual game-losing move. Holy smokes. He threw away about 25 cav archers, and I don't think that he even killed a single unit from his opponent. Pike just absolutely massacred him. And as I said, right now he still has a 30 villagers lead, which might be able to compensate, and he's gonna be able to replenish that army in time. However, if the villager difference wasn't this big, this would be a game for Pike, because losing that big of an army is an absolute disaster. Here's a Mangonel that could potentially get a hit on those scorpions. 5 scorpions now, and Camo Scorpion is a pretty scary composition right now over here. And let's see what the Mangonel can do. One good mango hit can turn the battle around. Once again, lands a shot, hits the Scorpion, not finishing it off though. Mangonel getting mismicroed over here by Miguel, so the last couple of minutes have been pretty disastrous for Miguel, who is trying to get a castle up over here for some Mangodai. Because obviously, in the long run, Mangodai is going to be the name of the game. But the Scorpions will have some very, very nice shots on the cav archers. And is this going to be a Doubt Castle? It kind of seems like it. Mangonel getting the shot out, missing that, and that is a Doubt Castle over there. The Camos could try focusing down the Mangonel, but now they're trying to stop the villagers only, and honestly, this wasn't as good of a fight as I initially thought for Pike, but he still has the score lead, finishes off the Mangonel, and yeah, that castle isn't going up, Miguel. And when the opponent doesn't have a lot of cav archers, Camos start to be a pretty dominant force. So that's also worth considering, that you need a good blob of cav archers to be able to deal with the Camos, otherwise the Camos will just overrun you, and it looks like Miguel really wants to commit to this one. It's a 24 villagers lead right now. Battering Ram is in already for Pike to finish that one off. And once again, I'm not 100% sure that Miguel has the army to get this one up. He may just, use these cav archers as a meat shield and try to finish that castle, and he is actually going to get this castle up at the end of the day. Villagers should pop out on the other side and deal with the Rams, and still there's a 23 villagers lead for Miguel, who's dropping another TC over here. TC on this gold mine is interesting for Pike. This TC should be over here because you want it close to the gold and the wood, so this is a bad TC spot for Pike. He's still leading in KD, but we can't underestimate the fact that overall unit composition-wise, Mongols have a massive lead over Indians, and Miguel is also having a pretty confident 26 villagers lead, 22 only now. in this one, and Mangadai will start coming in. It's also 4 TCs for him, whereas his opponent is sitting on 2 only already making the third one. But Pike isn't catching up in eco anytime soon. Miguel is floating an awful lot of wood, which is worth keeping track of, and he's also missing Thumb Ring, which is an extremely important upgrade for cavalry archers and Mangadais, so that's something that he's gonna have to get at some point. It looks like we're gonna have a lumber camp being set up over here, and Pike is just going to settle TCing that gold mine. As I said, I feel like this TC could have been much better over here, but it's a minor detail, and it looks like Miguel is actually going to turn on the offensive now and wants to get a castle up on this forward position. There's a couple of camos that could deny that, so I wonder... Miguel could technically wall this one in pretty easily, and more Mangadai are coming in, which will be a lot more efficient against the camos than the original cav archers were. But guess what? These villagers are pretty much left alone over here, and Doubt's face is smiling on us over here. That castle isn't going up anytime soon. And as I said, this is definitely the sloppiest game from Miguel. So he has made some very bad decisions in this one, also made some pretty bad moves. So losing all the cav archers. This is the second castle that has been somewhat problematic for him. This one also had a hard time going up, but this one as well. It's a 17 villagers lead now only for Miguel, so that villager lead is shrinking a little bit over here. As he tries to take down the Scorpion, he's going to lose a couple of Mangadai and cav archers over here, the camos, and the flood of camos is something that seems like it's a little bit too much for Miguel to stop. He's also now exclusively making Mangadai and now teching into what appears to be pikemen. He could technically be making his own camos as well, but he just wants to add a couple of pikemen to deal with the camos. The reason why I don't like it is because you could see how heavy pike is on Scorpions, and camo Scorpion would still counter pikeman Mangadai, in comparison to having your own camos, for example, on the field. I also don't like that Pike is actually, or Miguel is completely stopping to produce cav archers and Mangadai. You could still be adding more Mangadai over here, and we have another siege workshop with battering rams for Pike. And this one, now Miguel cancels that castle and drops the castle over here. Worth noting that there is one relic in each corner, but there is also one relic in the middle over here, in case this game goes very long. Usually this map plays out really fast, but sometimes you see long games evolving because of how hard it is to push one player off from the middle, and there is quite a lot of stone available on this map, so players are usually able to drop quite a lot of castles overall. That solidifies their position. This is by far the best game so far in this series, though. That is something that is undeniable, and now we're going to have pikemen for Miguel, so he wants to use pikemen to beat Pike over here. We'll see if that is going to work out. It would be a fitting end to this series if he beat Pike with Pikeman. And let's see, that's once again an ambitious castle as Mangadai production comes in. Pikemen now out, and they do have +1/+1 as well, so that's a bad fight for Pike overall. And the castle comes in. It looks like Pike is actually planning a big camel and ram push here on the far left, and he wants to collapse the eco of Miguel over there, and this is probably the reason why he's running to the far right. So he's distracting the pikemen as much as possible and makes sure that this push isn't going to get discovered. That being said, those rams are dangerously left alone, and if Miguel spots this, he could kill 1 or 2 rams with the villagers before the camels show up. Indeed, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Before the camels show up, many of these rams will be taking quite a lot of damage already, and that could have been avoidable. Plus it alerts Miguel that there is trouble coming his way. And there is still 4 rams over there. One of the rams goes down. The rest of the rams aren't able to access the TC, and now the town center can just focus down those camels. And Mangadai picking off these scorpions over here. Quite a lot of them will fall, but the scorpions dead. That means that the pikemen can come in here and deal with the camels. And once you clean up the camels, you can use the villagers to take down the battering rams. It's only a 6 villagers lead now, though. Another castle comes in here for Miguel, so he wants to just take control over the gold mine, and Pike is probably too busy microing his stuff over here. Pike is also killing quite a lot of vills here, and the villager count evens out. But now, the rams here will go down. I think this is gonna get cleaned up, and even though the villager count is even, this is gonna be an awfully enormous concern for Pike over here. Look at that, he's got like 30 villagers on this screen, and that gold mine is gonna be completely denied thanks to this castle over here So, in fact, if this castle goes up, quite a lot of gold villagers will die before they can run away from this one. And another castle by Miguel. He's just making a line of castles here. Castle, 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 castle. As Pike taps out. Well, it's hard to say where this went wrong with Pike. I feel like Miguel was just better in every aspect of the game. It is worth noting, really, that both of these players had some sloppiness, including Miguel, so he's gonna have to clean some things up. For example, this game was sloppy in many ways for him. The amount of idle time on the ecos, not necessarily in this game, because there was a lot of time where these villagers were garrisoned inside TCs and whatnot to, kill the camels. But even the Arabia game, he had quite a lot of TC and villager idle time, especially villager idle time. So yeah, Miguel has to do some polishing on his gameplay, but he's going to advance into the next round. So yeah, in case you were watching this on YouTube, and you're going to be watching this on YouTube because this wasn't streamed live on Twitch, but usually I stream live on Twitch. I also cast games just like these, and oftentimes I upload those to YouTube as well. This is a YouTube exclusive cast because I wasn't able to catch the live series, but this is the full series, Pike vs. Miguel. Hopefully you enjoyed, and thank you for watching.